Now, the hard part of actually making those changes and reducing regulation, cleaning up corruption, as I've mentioned, having a court system that can adjudicate disputes between investors. These are all important things that all three major parties seem to agree that they are going to move forward on. I think this is an important piece. It's very important to get investors, in particular international investors, here, because another thing that's coming up very soon that this new government is going to have to address is 2012, the European Cup. This big sporting event in 2012 is going to take enormous amount of work, enormous amount of money, enormous amount of effort to build the roads and the stadiums and the airports and the hotels, and the state budget in Ukraine, I think, is not going to be able to cover all of those expenditures. That money is going to have to come from investors. Investors are going to have to come invest in stadiums, invest in hotels, invest in roads. And the only way investors are going to come bring their money to help get ready for 2012 is if the investment climate works. And it goes back to what I was talking about in corruption, regulation, courts. So those are very important pieces, I think, of what this next government is going to have to do. A young democracy has challenges, and one of the challenges in this country is there are many people in Ukraine who grew up under a totally different system, who grew up under a system that is very different from the one you're looking at today. My own view is Ukraine made the right decision. It is making the right decision to move to Europe, to establish a real democracy. It's a young democracy, but it's clearly a real democracy. The United States government is very pleased to be a partner with Ukraine as it moves in this direction. But your generation, your class, and the classes before you and after you here at this university, you have a major responsibility for your country and for your countrymen and women. So that's why, again, as I started out talking about young democracy, I'm talking about new generations that can move forward, that didn't grow up in the old system, that didn't work in the old system, remembers what the old system is like because you know what your parents and grandparents have said, but you have the opportunity to move forward in a fresh way, in a vibrant way, to establish a new democracy in a way that you want to do. The United States is very pleased to support you in this, and now I am very eager to take your questions and take your comments. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question, you can ask Mr. Ambassador. Please. Sir.
Mr. Ambassador, sorry, Professor Aslanyan, what do you think about the situation in our country if election will be very often? Will be good situation for work of the government and also for people?
You say with the election, frequent elections?
Yes, will be very often.
Yes.
This situation will be good for work government and also for people in our country.
Thank you. I mentioned at the outset that when I arrived here a year and a half ago, I thought it would be a good thing in the summer of 2006 that my whole tour from 2006 to 2009 would be a time when Ukraine could settle. The Ukrainian democracy could settle, that Ukrainian economics could settle, that investors could have a time to be able to take a look and see where the investments would make sense, and investors would gain confidence in coming here. I thought there was a need for a time of some settling, some stability. And I said, I was hoping that for the 3 years from 2006 to 2009, when I'm going to be the ambassador here from the United States, that there wouldn't be an election. But, as I say, I was wrong. Your leaders decided there would be an election. You're asking, I think, if there should be more elections and more elections, and of course there should be more elections. But you don't have to have an election every year. You don't have to have, now, don't get me wrong, I'm very much in favor of elections. But there's a limit. I mean, there's too much of a good thing. If you have it every year, it makes it difficult for the democracy to settle, for the economics to settle, for the people to settle in. And people, when I walk around both this city, but when I visit other places, I was in Odessa, Mykolaiv last weekend, I was in Poltava earlier, I've traveled to a lot of places in this country, and I hear people's views and people's desires and people's goals that are not grand issues. In particular, they're not specific issues that have to do with Kyiv, but people around the country want to get on about their lives. They want to educate their children. They want to have good health care for their parents and themselves and their children. They want to have good jobs. They don't want inflation to erode their earning power. These are the things that government needs to address. And so, and it's difficult, frankly, to address those kinds of issues when there's an election every year. When you're preparing for election, you have to think about what would sound good to the electorate. And of course that's important because you want to get the views of the electorate. And the people of Ukraine need to make decisions and have made decisions. But I would suggest that now's, again, a time to kind of settle in, make some decisions, form a government, make these decisions that I mentioned, and take steps forward.